Tyres can massively affect how your bike rides, and it's something that we always talk about in any upgrade video we do, trying to get the right tyre for the type of trails you ride, but also the different conditions throughout the year. And it's always a bit of a balancing act, like any sort of bike setup. What you might gain in some areas, let's say grip, you might have to compromise in others, like rolling resistance. Grip. Well, it's pretty simple, I suppose, how much your tyre is gripping onto the floor. There's many other considerations to getting the grip sorted on your bike, things like your rider skills, your bar height, your tyre pressure, your suspension setup. But if we assume all of that is perfect, let's just look at exactly how much friction and grip that tyre is giving you on the trail floor. Rolling resistance. When you're rolling along, how much friction and resistance are you getting from your tyres on the floor? The lower the rolling resistance, the further you would go on a single pedal stroke, and the higher your average speed would be in some situations, not all. In fact, it's probably easier to show you this with two tyres side by side. An Enduro tyre, or a downhill tyre for that matter, is likely to have large rubber blocks with a soft rubber compound and with sipes and with slopes and cutouts of those rubber blocks to deform and to grip onto the trail. Whereas a cross-country tyre is likely to have much smaller rubber blocks, where the name of the game, of course, is going uphill, across and down a hill as fast and as efficiently as possible. So there's more of a focus on rolling efficiency than out-and-out grip. There are other variables that are going to affect grip and rolling resistance. For example, a harder tyre is likely to roll faster than a soft one. You've got a smaller contact patch on the ground, basically less friction. But it's not quite as simple as that, because a really hard tyre is going to deflect off every single bump in the trail. So it's not as simple as riding a bike down a tarmac road and saying, oh, the harder one's faster. In real life on the trail, actually, a slightly softer tyre is going to deflect and absorb those impacts that will slow you down. So you can roll faster with a softer tyre in some situations, but it's not an exact science. So there's definitely a balancing act here with tyres and pressures and the rest of your bike. We won't go into that now, but for the sake of this video and keeping it simple, I'm just going to run my normal pressures that I've, with experience of racing years and riding for years, I've come to know that anything between 24 and 28 PSI works for me, slightly harder end of the scale for the rear tyre. And I'll run the same pressures in these cross-country tyres. I'm going to swap into this bike. Of course, for the eagle-eyed out there, I am running different sets of wheels rather than just swapping the tyres over, saving a bit of time and make it easier for myself. I'm just going to swap wheels over. However, they are quite similar. They're both sort of wide profile carbon rims, so there isn't going to be a huge difference there. There will be a difference in weight because of the tyre construction. And of course, there's plenty of other tyres in the middle of the Enduro tyre and the out-and-out cross-country tyre that I could use, but for this experiment, I'm using Enduro and cross-country tyres. I'm going to start with a simple rolling test. I'm on a fire road, top to bottom, no pedalling, no braking, two different sets of tyres to see if there's any difference in time down this fire road. Could be quite interesting, this. I'm going to keep the pressures the same to make sure nothing else sort of changes. So literally from a sitting start, let's get a time. Just over 26 seconds, max speed 44 kilometers an hour. Actually quite quick. Right, now for the cross-country tyres rolling test. I'm expecting this to be fast. I almost didn't stop. Wow, that was a big difference. I'm surprised actually. Coming down the hill then, it felt faster, and it was 4 kilometers an hour faster, 48k then, 1.5 seconds faster, which doesn't sound like much. It was only 25 seconds long, so much quicker down the hill. So there goes to show, less rolling resistance does make you quicker in some situations. Now to see how the two different sets of tyres fare in a set of corners. So this corner is quite firm actually, but the rest of the track is a bit loose, a bit autumnal, so there's leaves and there's mulch on top of the trails. So I'm really expecting the grippier Enduro tyres to dig in and give me way more grip in the corner. So I'm expecting the grip to pay way more dividends than the faster rolling resistance in this case. The cross-country tyres do have a fair amount of grip, but it's when you really start leaning them over onto their edges or starting to ride aggressively with them, then you do find the edge of their grip quite quickly. Whereas with the Enduro tyres, they do have just more grip. You can feel the tyre almost digging into the ground, and it feels to me almost like they give you a bit more warning when they are on the edge of their grip. And that just adds up to more confidence in the corners when you're trying to go fast. Now I'm going to time a loop. I'm going to pedal up the fire road and then drop down into the single track and see what the difference is on both sets of tyres. I'm sort of expecting to gain time on the faster rolling cross-country tyres on the way up and potentially lose a bit on the downhills, because I think really today you're going to need all the grip you can get on the downhills, but we'll see. Right, who's got a stopwatch? Oh yeah, I have. And I'm wearing a heart rate monitor, so I'm gonna try and keep my effort similar-ish on the way up. Not gonna go mad. Sounds like hard work, but go pretty quick. Right, ready. 160 BPMs. I'll maybe keep that as consistent as I can. Right, nearing the top. Sort of 164, 165 BPMs. Oh, it's definitely leafy. Feel the bike drifting there. That's fun. Definitely slippy even on these tyres, so the lower profile cross-country tyres are going to be more exciting. Definitely a bit slow on the way down. Now to the time of the loop on the cross-country tyres. That's what we do. No, I drifted out, coming in. Like we always do. Like we always do. Wow, so I think there's some pretty surprising results actually from that loop. Turns out I'm faster on the cross-country tyres on my Enduro bike, on this loop, in these conditions. But yeah, 3.5 seconds quicker on the way up. Felt quicker than that, if I'm honest. It felt really svelte, whipping up that hill. And only half a second slower on the way down. And actually, I slid in a couple of corners. You definitely feel like there's not as much grip. There's quite a hard braking zone up there into the corner. Didn't feel like I slowed down, especially with back tyre. And then I slid in this corner here, and then I slid off my line down there on an off camber. So I didn't even make that gap that I was doing on the Enduro tyres, but I was only half a second slower. What does that tell me? It tells me that I could be quicker on this bike with cross-country tyres, but did I enjoy it as much? Well, it felt sketchy. It felt like if I was really going to push on, I would eventually fall off. But it makes me think that I could get away with some trail tyres. So rather than go over tyre, should we say, with those Enduro Mazas, I could potentially stick some more traily tyres on this and it'd still be good and be fast, and I'd be confident I had enough grip to shred the corners a bit. So just goes to show, or reminds me more than anything, that tyres can make quite a big difference to how fast the bike is, but also how it feels. And you can really transform a bike by tweaking them all the time. Like I said, you know, start of autumn, it's going to get wetter than this, so potentially this would get too hard on these tyres. You'd find that you're just sliding too much, so you'd have to get a grippier tyre anyway. But definitely food for thought about tweaking your tyres for the situation. And I haven't even got into doing pressures or anything like that yet. Anyway, let us know what tyres you run down below, and if you think you'd rather have a grippier tyre or a faster tyre. Definitely depends on what bike you're riding as well, cross-country bike, enduro bike. Also, one last point for me, I remember when I raced Enduro as a pro, I used to ride on some tyres, I won't say the brand, but some tyres that people didn't think were the grippiest. And I kind of agreed, they weren't the grippiest tyres, but what I did think was their secret weapon was they were really fast, they rolled really fast. And that made up time in between the bits where I didn't need grip. So maybe that is quite important if you're trying to go really fast on a bike. But yeah, let us know what tyres you run and if you run the same tyres all year round. Thumbs up if you like this video.